So let's now begin to talk about different types of data, different to the raster type of data. And the difference is that, or the main difference is that the vectorial data, there was a vertex with several of these vertex, and many different types of geometries can be made. They can be irregular. In raster, the base unit would be the pixel, and pixels uh, have a different concept. It's an abstract kind of concept, but the main difference is that the pixel or a set of pixels are very regular. So in this case, we have a small portion of a raster, and I'm showing you how the computer reads these information. So the raster is like a matrix with lines and columns that are very regular. So there's a space, a very well-defined space between one pixel and the other pixel. That's called resolution. And in each pixel, there's a value. And the difference is that whenever you have a vectorial value, we have the coordinates, which are stored for each one of the vertexes, and it's associated to the geometry, and there are attributes. You don't need to store all the coordinates here because since they are very regular, it can be done in a more efficient manner just by knowing what's the origin, where it begins geographically. So these are the coordinates that the software has, and what is the resolution, or what's the distance between one pixel and the other. So for regular data that's dense, like for example, images or satellite data, interpolated data that have this trait, uh, everything can be very regular. So the reason of why people use raster data is because it's efficient. It's many times more efficient. The amount of information that you can store with this resolution is higher. So if you were to represent this with polygons, for every pixel I would have to store five vertices because I'd have to begin here and to finish here also. So there are five vertices for each one of those. But in raster data, you don't require that. You're just going to have one in the beginning. So this is one of the reasons of why using this type of data is when there's a lot of information that's regular, where you can store one number or several numbers, and one number can be seen as a layer. And for example, the numbers here are being used to give a color attribute. So there's a symbology that can be attributed in a similar way to the vectorial type of data, but it's only based on the attributes. And by doing this, you can obtain a map. The most common images that are taken with the drone, for example, and with satellites also, you usually have three layers at least, one layer for each one of the colors that our eye can see. And for the rest, when there's more information, you have to choose how to recreate this representation, just three colors to exhibit at the same time, for example. So this is going to be more clear in the practical part of the module. This is an example on how to attribute symbology properties. This is a carbon map, soil carbon map, and one of the databases that can be used to download the soil would be the soil grids, and you can download raster data because there's a grid, and every 150 meters there's a pixel in this resolution. So I can attribute a legend that for each one of the values that are in the raster data, it's going to attribute a color or assign a color, and this would be just with one layer. But you can select more than just one layer. But you can notice that the main thing to understand here is that there's a difference. The options that we have for the different raster layers are different from the options that we have for vectorial data.